Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Invisible Not Broken. Today, I get to talk to Tara Moriarty again, our service dog trainer. She and I had a long talk before I got Stefan, my own little service dog, and we decided that we would do an entire series about how to choose a service dog all the way through training. May I tell you that this is not just me praising a guest. She has made training my service dog possible. And being a disabled person training my own service dog, that is quite a feat. So we talk today about the difference between getting a regular puppy and getting a service dog. We are here to teach you about puppy socialization, crate training techniques, and also what kind of dog to get. We talk about dog commands, navigating dog parks with a disability, and establishing structured routines. Please join me to welcome Tara Moriarty back to the show, and also go to our show notes where you will find links to Tara's website, and if you would like to hire Tara or just ask more questions. If you have more questions for Tara, also please feel free to direct message us. We are doing this as a series, and we want to hear from you on what will help the most.
I'm so happy to have you back. I feel like I didn't take your warnings seriously enough the last time we talked about service dogs, and you made some excellent points. And I'm glad I didn't listen to you because I love the puppy. He's the best puppy in the world. But when you said the last time we talked, you might be too sick for a service dog, I should have fucking listened to you. I am too sick for a service dog, but I love him so much.
Push back on that just a smidgen.
Go
I don't
ahead.
think you're too sick for a service dog, but you might be a little too sick for a puppy. There's a difference.
Let's explain the difference because I have been dying to have this conversation with you because it's too late to save me. He's here. I love him. But I've been on TikTok and I've been trying to categorize record. This is how sleep deprived I am. I have no words. Like I am so sleep deprived. I went to go get the eggs for the chickens the day after we got him, and I sat down on the eggs just forgetting that they were in my pockets. I mean, like, it has been hilarious, and I have 2 adults in my house to help me with this. And, I'm losing my flipping mind, but I've been, like, documenting this on TikTok because I was like, I cannot be the only person who's like, "I can't afford $20,000, and I can't wait 3 years for a service dog." There's a lot of people who are
Yep.
like, optimism is what's gonna kill some of us. Hey, can't make it real. Figure this out. I will strap this shit, man. And there's gonna be a lot of swearing because I'm so tired. So if you're offended by swearing, you're listening to this, you can love you, but I'm sure there's another episode we have where I don't swear as much. I am so tired. There is absolutely swearing that's going to be happening. So I've been documenting this because I'm like, I can't be the only one. I've been trying to warn people, like, I was too sick to do this, and you are so right. Too sick for a
Yeah.
puppy. I actually will fight back a little bit on I think I'm actually too sick for a service dog. Like, you said something
Yeah.
so brilliant the last time we talked was like, you are ready for a service dog if having a friend with you would have helped the situation. But if you
Yep.
can't do it with a friend, you should not be doing that. And somehow my brain's like, but puppy.
Cool. Yeah, puppies will do that. They're sneaky like that. They've got the cute little face and the ears, and it's a lost cause, honestly, once you find the puppy.
Breeder brought the dog over so I could meet him, and I was like, this isn't fair. Like, this is not fair. Like, you're
Yeah.
gonna bring a Labrador puppy into my home that I might be able to keep as a just meet and greet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna say no to a lab puppy.
Yeah. No, that's how
Yeah.
they get you. They bring the puppy there, and that's it. The puppy can't leave at that point. That's how I ended up with my first dog.
Just explain to me how you can foster. Yeah, that failed foster. I do not understand how anyone doesn't fail foster. I have failed every foster
If
I've
you
done.
if you foster enough and you work with dogs enough, it gets a little easier because you're more able to pick and choose what dogs like fit in your home. You're eventually you'll figure it out with your dog, but you can spot it sooner if the dog is going to be a good fit for you the more you're interacting with dogs. So like I've had a couple of successful fosters that have gone on to live with other people because I was like, you're cute and you're adorable and I'll hang out with you for a bit, but like you can be cute over there and I will like you better if you're cute over there with somebody else.
I mean, I'm even the same way with people though. Like
Yeah.
anyone, my kids would warn their friends, like, you come over to my house, my mother's adopting you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. The the hardest part is when they are a good fit, and then you have to be
Ooh.
like, "Ooh, but I can't have 300 dogs. That's unsustainable."
I mean, these are questions we need to ask. Like, really? I don't know. We had that as we first we wanted an adult dog. We didn't want to do a puppy
Yep.
for the service dog. And so we contacted all the lab rescues in our area. And we're like,
Yep.
this is the deal. We're looking for a adult dog at least 1 or 2 years old who has like just basics like sits, crate, and then I need to meet them to make sure it's a fit and they are non-reactive and they're all the things you need for a service dog, which we'll go over
Yeah.
again. Every
Yeah.
single one of them, it was not a fit. Like the sweetest little girl, Willow, she was, I loved that dog, but she had already bonded with the teenager of the foster family. And that was not a thing.
Mm.
She wouldn't even acknowledge I existed. Like, it's fine. Trust me, there's plenty of people in the world who do not want to acknowledge my existence. The service dog, it'd be nice if it was like, hey, at least
Yeah.
like be near you. And the dog was like curling
Yeah.
into this like child's lap and like, no, don't leave me here with
Oh.
these people.
Oh, I hope they keep that dog in because it sounds like that dog picked their home.
It's such a she was such a sweet girl too. I was like, oh my God, like honestly, this would be the perfect dog for me, the perfect temperament, perfect size. Like it was all exactly
Yeah.
right, except the dog would have
Yeah.
been miserable. And like I was so proud of this foster family because they called me up and they're like, we tried the restaurant and we had to carry her out. She was so nervous. Like she was good, she didn't growl or bite, not reactive, but she just lost her soul in the car and in the restaurant. And it was like they're like, we think we still might be able to
That's
make it
not.
work. I don't think this is a good fit. I'm like, it's not a good fit. Even if I could make it work,
No.
we would be miserable. And I don't want to make the dog miserable. Like, I want the dog to be happy being a service dog. Like, I don't want it to be like I guess, man. So that's why we
You
ended up doing.
can't have a service dog if the dog
Yeah,
isn't interested. Like, there's some
exactly.
people that try to force it, and I am pot calling the kettle black right now because my service dog is not a great fit for service work. But it is, he is what I had, and I'm finally getting an appropriate puppy in like 2 months. So I'm very excited for that because it is long overdue. But when your service dog isn't like thrilled with doing the work, they're not going to be good at their job, and you kind of need them to be good at their job. That's kind of the whole point.
All the people who have the fake service dogs, it's so important that they
Hmm.
like this is absolutely the thing they can do, not just want to do, but that they are like there's
Yeah.
temperaments that they're just sort of born into and you can't you
Yep.
can't fuck with that temperament. Like either they have it or they don't. And like that was why we ended
Yep.
up with the like this is why we ended up with a puppy. We didn't want a puppy. I do not have the energy for a puppy, but that's why we ended up with it was we tried every single lab rescue, even the failed service dogs, like the failed seeing eye dogs, the failed police dogs. But the list was so long to get on it. I had timed out. My doctors were really clear. My
Hmm.
disease is degenerative, and they're like, if you even want to attempt this, which we do not, very clearly against medical advice, so we do not recommend this. Woman, do you realize you dislocate by looking at things? You want a puppy? Like, no, I don't want a puppy, but we timed out, and this was the only other option, and it was a
Yeah.
cute Labrador puppy. In my defense, and my only real defense here was
Yeah.
it was a Labrador
Yeah.
puppy. I love Hamilton. I love Hamilton, but that one song, "How Do I Say No to This?" I viscerally hate with every fiber of my being until I saw that face, and then I'm like, oh, this is the only appropriate use of that song. How do I say no to this? So I made a whole song for him whenever
Yeah.
I'm furious with him, where I just change those lyrics around for him specifically.
Perfect.
Puppy,
I love it.
it keeps both of us safe.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. No, puppies are rough. Puppies are hard, especially when you add disability into the equation. Puppies are hard for people that are not disabled. Puppies are harder when you have a disability. And there's like when you're looking into service dogs, there's so many different routes, so many different options and ways. And then there's timing issues, and so it gets complicated. But like in a perfect world, people who are more disabled, but not so disabled that they wouldn't benefit from a service dog, they would get their service dog from a program, right? So
Yeah.
the dog's trained, everything's done. It's just, here's your service dog. And there's a learning process with that too. It's not as simple as like handing over the dog and saying good luck, but
You mean what to do with my children?
yeah,
This is a baby.
no,
Good luck.
no. There's more of a learning process, and like this is how the dog works. This is how you handle the dog. Most programs have like at least 2 to 4 weeks worth of training before you actually go home with the dog. But that would be ideal, right? You're at the point of disability where there's no way you're going to be able to train the dog yourself. but you're not so disabled that a service dog could still be helpful for you. That would be perfect. But service dogs are hard to come by from programs. They're very expensive, and the wait lists are long, and the programs that are less expensive have even longer wait lists than the programs that aren't, that are very expensive. So it ends up not being super accessible, and it sucks. It sucks, but it is. So perfect world, that's where people would get their service dog if they're at the point where just training it is just not feasible. The next step below would be getting an adult dog, right? Because an adult dog, you've got a lot of the stuff, especially if the dog has the right kind of temperament. It should be a pretty easygoing dog, and then you'll have to teach them some things. You know, you might have to make sure their obedience is looking good. You're going to have to teach them the task training, but it should be relatively easy. Like, the dog should be mostly self-sustaining and chill, because the kind of dog you want for service work is a dog that is generally chill. So even if they're not fully trained yet, it shouldn't be adding so much chaos to your world. The only issue that tends to come up there that is problematic is if the dog pulls on leash still, because they haven't learned to not pull on leash. Then you have an adult dog pulling you on leash, and for a lot of people with a lot of disabilities, that is just not feasible. So that's where it starts to get a little iffy. But finding a dog, oh my God, it takes probably just as long to find an appropriate adult dog as it does to wait for a program dog, because you have to go through so many to find one. Because nobody's getting rid of those dogs. Those are the dogs that everybody wants, so they keep them.
So let's just say I had been smart and I listened to you and I had the time to really go look. Let's say that
Yeah.
that all worked out. What would I have done? Would I have gone to shelters? Would I have called up how was if someone is smart and they're listening to you and they're like, okay, if I go out, it would be easier with a friend, but I can still handle it. I feel like a puppy's too much, but I feel like I can at least listen to someone or hire someone like you to teach me how to do the program, and I'm committed. And I just can't afford the $20,000 to just send the dog somewhere, and we can discuss like whether those even work or not. Sending a dog to a training camp without you, we can talk about that.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, like I don't know if people are aware, but if you do go through those programs, a lot of times you have to live at the facility for a while. The one I was looking at, I had to live there for like I think 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that is not feasible
Yeah.
for many adults. And so let's say you're going to
Yeah.
go through this process. You're like, okay, I'm going to try to train my own service dog, and Mazel Tov, blessed be, whatever. I give you all the credit in the world if you're trying this. What's the first step? What do you start looking for? How do you decide breed? Does breed matter? Do you go to these?
So if you're looking for an adult dog, temperament is the priority, right? So
Okay.
when you're looking for a puppy, I like to specify breed and temperament, because it's the puppies are unknown. Like, they're little balls of potential, but they're also, until they hit 2 years old, you will have no fucking clue if it's going to work out or not. Even if they're doing everything really well, life happens, and they're babies. So with an adult dog, though, you know what their temperament is, especially if they're 2 or older. You know pretty well. What you see is what you get. So it's still good to look for certain breeds because they are more likely to have that temperament, but you have a little more flexibility when you're looking at adult dogs, because you're not questioning if it'll work out. It's more of I see that this temperament is either going to work or not going to work. It's a little more clear than with a puppy. So I do still recommend labs, goldens, and poodles over anything else, because you are most likely to find a lab, golden, or poodle that is going to have the appropriate temperament. So make it a little easier on yourself still. So a couple places to look would be lab, golden, and poodle breeders. There are times when breeders take a dog back in because something happened, like the family moved, they had a kid that turned out to be allergic. Life happens. A good breeder will bring that dog back home, and a lot of times those dogs are still like good dogs. They're still
Yeah.
perfectly good temperaments. It's not like they came back for a behavior issue, although that happens too. But the breeders are a good place to start looking. And if they don't have a dog, they might know of another breeder who does. So they might be able to point you in the direction, because breeders talk to each other. They know each other, especially within their own breed. So they're going to know. And sometimes also breeders will keep back puppies from litters that they intend to bring into their breeding program that just don't work out for the breeding program for whatever reason, but they might still have a perfect temperament for a service dog. So you might have a young 1.5, 2-year-old dog that they don't like for breeding because it maybe like the ears are shaped wrong or like some structure or conformation.
Yeah.
That's not my realm at all. But
And we're not like health structure. We're not talking
yeah,
about like saying it's actually a
no,
health issue. We're just talking like when they're doing show dogs. There's like very
yeah,
specific things with show dogs.
yeah, they get very particular, or like maybe they want to breed more energetic dogs and this dog is just too chill, and that would be the perfect problem to have for somebody looking for a service dog. Like, I can take your chill dog from your
Show dog, no problem.
no problem. Yeah. So sometimes they have puppies. That is going to be harder to find because it's one of those things that sometimes they have them, and if they do, it's often a great choice, but it's also pretty rare because breeders do a really good job, at least good breeders. And you should only be going to good breeders to look for service dogs. But good breeders, they do a good job of placing their dogs. So the likelihood that dogs are going to come back to them is pretty slim. So, like if they happen to have one or they know of people that have one, great. But also you might end up waiting a while, or it may never happen because they may never have a dog come back to them, or they may never like hold back dog, or they might keep the dogs they held back or whatever. So that's a good starting point. I would start there. At least ask, because that could make it very easy if there's something available or if something becomes available.
Yes. All breeders, or do you know of like a service like Pet Finder that's more for like? As I went on to AKC, and that's how I was able to
Mm-mm.
find Stefan was through AKC.
I'd be talking to breeders. So like I'm looking into breeders as if you were buying a puppy, and then reaching out to talk to them and asking if they might have an adult dog. Because like if the puppies they are breeding are fitting the requirements that you're looking for, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm looking for a service dog. I don't think I can handle a puppy, but do you maybe have an older dog that's looking for a home, or would you know of anybody who has an older dog in this breed that's looking for a home that would do well as a service dog?
Now, what would you ask? I did this, and the
Yeah.
breeders that I was talking to, I was really surprised, but most of them were like, "I don't know what would I look for with a service dog." So, what kind of traits would you be asking for when you're calling up?
So I would be looking for breeders first off that actually work with service dogs. So if they don't know what traits make up a good service dog, I would probably look at another breeder first before asking them. Although there is some risk with that too, because not everyone understands what a service dog is. So there are some breeders that think they're
That's
breeding service
they're
dogs.
running it because they knew like this is a dog for
Yeah,
autism support, and I'm like, this is different.
yeah,
Like they knew different things.
yeah. So, things you would look for in a dog for service work. You want a dog with a very even temperament. You want a dog that's going to be able to be chill and relaxed, but also ready to work when they need to. So, you can test that. There's a couple like different temperament tests are out there to kind of see what they do. So, things you'd want to look for is if something makes a loud noise, how do they respond to it? So you can take like a metal bowl, drop it on the ground, it'll make a big clanging sound. What does the dog do? Do they go "Ah," and run away? Probably not the best for service work. Do they kind of go like a little jump, but look at it and then relax and go, okay, whatever, that was weird? Much better service dog candidate. Or do they kind of hear it go clang and run at it and go, "Ah, I'm going to get it"? Not a good service dog. You want mostly neutral responses. You want to see, like how they do out in a public space. I would take them out somewhere to like a pet friendly area and just see, are they nervous? Are they confident? Are they like pulling on the leash trying to get to everything? Are they cowering in a corner? Like what are we doing? Um, if they're pulling, but it's out of excitement, that's workable because then they're not worried. They're just excited and we can work with excitement. But if they're pulling and like zigzagging, and that speaks more to anxiety. If they're not trying to pull at something, but they're just chaotically moving, that's more of an anxiety thing. So that would be a little iffy, but it depends on like how much and what could we work with. I'd want to see them going on like weird, quote unquote, weird things. So, like, can they walk over grates? Can they walk on different surfaces without freaking out? Can we go on slippery floors? Slippery floors are a big one. It's something that most people don't think about, but like, your dog's got to walk on slippery floor. Grocery stores have slippery floors, and if they freak out when they see the shiny reflection of the floor or they don't like the way it feels, it's gonna be hard to be a service dog. Hospitals have slippery floors. Like, you need to be cool with that. Echoey things, if you can find like a walking tunnel so you can see how they respond to echoes. Basically you just want to see that they can be neutral or even excited whenever they encounter something different or new. You want a confident but somewhat neutral dog. And then everybody's needs are going to be different as far as like energy wise. So, like for me, for my dog, I'm getting a more energetic dog, which is the opposite of what I recommend to most people. But I like to do dog sports too, and I like the energetic dogs. So a calmer dog would drive me nuts. It would not fit well in my house. It would not fit well with my lifestyle. But I need them to be not so energetic that they don't like the work, which is my current problem with my service dog, is he's just a little too much that the normal service dog stuff is too boring for him. And it's hard. But other people need more of a calm, chill dog that is the default is we're calm and like, yeah, I can work, I guess, if we have to. That's more commonly what people need. So there's a variant there too with what the specific individual is looking for and what their lifestyle is like.
That's a really good point, because just because you need a service dog doesn't mean that you are going to be wanting to be at the dog park for like 5 hours throwing a ball. Like,
Yep.
there's dogs who have different levels of energy, and different levels of energy we need for different kinds of service. That's a really good point.
Exactly. Yep.
Like,
And Malinois are not, I would not recommend one as a service dog in like 99% of cases. People know very well they have like, I've met a handful that could do well as service dogs because they don't have the same spiciness as the average Malinois, but that's because their temperament is off standard. Like, it's not what you would expect from a Malinois, so it ends up working sometimes. But even then, they're gonna be way more energetic than like a chill English lab.
No, and that kind of like the training too is so, and that's something I don't think a lot of people think about. It's like just the visual of like a lab. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cute! It's so lovely and friendly." If you have like, even if you have the most perfect shepherd for service, you might really trigger some people's fears, and like that's going to be a little bit more of an effort for you to calm the people around you down.
Yes.
Or you can have
breed makes a huge difference for that.
You could also have a goblin and have to explain. If you're listening, I'm so sorry. If you go to our YouTube, you'll get to see my goblin. This is not my service dog. This is a goblin running hamster hardware. And she decided she needed to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's a good thing to consider too, is public perception. Because most people, if they see a lab in a service dog vest or they see a golden in a service dog vest, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if you have anything else,
people are like, what? Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Even golden sometimes. Really, anything other than a lab, because labs are so everywhere. Like you think of
they're also visually
most guide dog places use labs. Yeah. So, and even with labs, still you'll get some issues in public, because inevitably you will run into problems in public when you're out with a service dog, because somebody somewhere at some point is going to say, no, we don't let dogs in here, sorry, even though it's illegal. It happens, but it's less likely to happen if you have a lab than if you have something else, and it's less likely to happen if you have a larger dog than if you have a smaller dog. Because most people are going to assume if you have like a little dog, especially something that you could carry with you, they're just going to assume right out the gate that there's no way that's a service dog. But they can make great service dogs. Little ones.
Sorry. You okay? Uh-oh. Are you okay? Are you okay? Baby, poor little thing.
What happened?
Figure out if I can edit that. The poor little guy, he's in his crate, and his little paw he was twisting and turning, having a little like puppy dream, and he got his little foot caught in his crate. Are you okay, baby? Oh, he's all settled now. Okay, I will sit right next to him. We'll see if I can edit that. If I don't edit that, I am so sorry, everyone. And the dog is, I will prove, perfectly happily safe. Never a dull moment. Good
puppies.
I mean, I've raised children, I've raised puppies. I will take the kids any day.
Yeah.
Kids are easier to me than I'm just amazed at how good he is. I'm really shocked, and I'm still dead. Like, if he
Yeah.
wasn't this good of a dog, I don't know how I would have survived. He's also an older puppy. We got him at almost 4 months, and so he was
Yeah.
like an 8-week-old, and he'd already gotten a little
That's
start on
good.
his. If it had been 8 weeks, I would have done it. There's no
Oh
way.
man, that that's so much work when they're that little. It's crazy.
Okay, let's explain the difference because I think people are like, "What do you mean? It's 8 weeks. It's one more month." But, people don't know puppies. Like, what
Oh,
is the
oh
difference between an
no.
8-week-old and how much sleep you're going to expect to get and a 3-month-old?
Well, you will have no sleep when you have an 8-week-old puppy. A 3-month-old puppy, you might actually be able to sleep through the night. So when they're itty bitty, they're still little potato beans. They're babies, right? It's like
Yeah.
bringing home an actual baby from the hospital. They will need to pee every. If you're lucky, it will be once an hour. But often it'll be closer to like every 30 minutes or even every 15 minutes, because especially if they're up and they're moving when they're 8 weeks old. Taco, one of the puppies I have, the black lab, he was every 15 minutes on the freaking dot for the first 2 weeks I had him. He had to go out and pee if he was awake, because they just they're this they had their bladder's like this big. It can only hold so much. So they got to go out and
Yeah.
pee all the time. They are getting into so much trouble. Like if mostly it's potty problem, honestly, with the puppies that tiny, because like they'll get into some trouble, but 9 times out of 10 the trouble is they've pottied somewhere they shouldn't.
So what can we do about that? Let's say someone is like, 'cause like, let's be honest, even if we have all the best intentions in the world and we see the 8-week-old puppy, we're like,
Mhm.
I can do it. Can it
Yeah.
be? Let's talk about some ways that you could, if you're disabled and you have unpredictable disability, how can you make that whole potty work? Is it like having the little patch of grass inside? Is it, I heard like something about pellets and like almost like cat litter? Like, what are some of the things that people can do to
So
alleviate?
you've got kind of two options depending on your living situation. So if you have a yard and if it's easily accessible for you, the easiest thing is to just keep the puppy outside as much as possible.
Mm,
Because if the puppy's
mm,
outside, the puppy can have a potty accident and it's not a problem. And then you don't have to worry about bringing them in and out and in and out and in and out. You can wait to introduce that idea later when they can actually hold it for more than 10 seconds
yeah.
at a time. But that's not always, accessible to people. So if that's not an option, then setting up a little potty station inside is good. So I like to have like a puppy playground almost set up for puppies. I have like an X pen set up for the puppies so
Ah,
that if I'm not actively supervising, they can go in the pen. And when they're teeny tiny, the pen is covered. Like it's covered in something that is easy to clean, so that if they have a potty accident, they have it in the pen, great. I can just pick up like the potty pad, or the
mhm.
pellets work great. The fake grass works great if they're going to chew up the pee pads. But the whole thing is covered so they can have an accident and it's a non-issue. And then you can start to almost litter box train them like you would a cat. So as they're in your space, and this should only take like a couple of days, because if you've gone to a good breeder, the good breeder has probably also already done this when they were young. But you can start to move all that potty stuff, like whether it's the pee pads or the pellets or the fake grass, just make the space smaller and smaller until it's just like a little
Mm,
box in the corner of the puppy pen. And then once you have that, the puppy is learning to only pee on that spot. So they're learning where is okay and where is not okay to pee within their puppy pen, which will translate to learning to pee outside only versus inside at all. If you can get your hand on real grass, like if it's a good time
mm,
of year to get sod from like a garden store, putting that as the potty spot works great too, because then they're peeing on outside even though they're inside. A lot of people hesitate to do that, and I used to be a trainer that actually recommended against this for a while, because the idea of teaching the dog to pee inside feels so
mm,
counterintuitive. But if you're doing it correctly, if you're doing it well, so it's a very clearly designated area and the puppy is learning that that is the designated area, then it's easy to transfer to outside and you don't have an issue with a dog that pees inside for their whole life. The problem is if you're not teaching them, like if you take all that potty, like the potty pads or the whatever, and you always leave it out everywhere, then you're just teaching your puppy to pee everywhere inside.
Because like we were told, like just make sure use grass and not the potty pads, because the grass will be like they'll touch grass outside and they'll be like, oh yeah, I know this one.
Yep.
But if it's the fabric, they're like, oh, rugs.
So actually, as a service dog, you want to have them pee on everything. Potty pads, the biggest concern I have with potty pads is if the puppy's eating them. So if the puppy starts tearing them up, they're not effective and we can't use them anymore. But they are just learning to pee in a certain spot. So what they're peeing on is actually not as relevant as the fact that they are learning that it is that specific spot that is okay versus anywhere else in the house. So you can put anything in there with them for them to pee on, as long as they are starting to understand the concept of I pee in this space specifically, as opposed to anywhere else. But yeah, as a service dog, this is something that a lot of people don't think about. But you want your service dog to be able to pee anywhere you need them to, especially if you end up traveling. Because the service dog relief areas are something
Gross.
else. Oh my God. So bad, most of them. Or like if you go to a city, but you normally live out in the country, if your dog's only ever pottied on grass, you go into the city, a dog won't want to potty somewhere that's not familiar to them. So with like a young service dog puppy, it's actually good to encourage them to pee on all sorts of different surfaces. So like I specifically seek out, let's go pee on the grass, let's go pee on the dirt, let's go pee on this gravel, let's go pee on this concrete, let's go anything that's reasonably appropriate to pee on, let's go pee on that so that you get
Your
used to.
thoughts? Yeah. So what is
Yes.
like, okay, let's say everything's gone well. You let's not do the squeaky thing while mommy's recording. It's just those days. I give up. Seriously, the chaos of today has been insane. Everyone's sick in my house, and yeah, that just does not change when you're a disabled
Oh
mom. You
man.
still have to perform at mom level. Does not matter if you are disabled or not. Yeah. So let's say everything works out. You have your service puppy or dog and you're starting to train. What are some of like we've got sit, lay down, settle.
Hmm.
Settle's been a big one I've been working on because that's the biggest thing I need from him is
Hmm.
just to try to be still next to me while I eat or brush my teeth. And we're working on that. What are some of the things that you need to like, what's the love better question? What's the order to teach?
So the answer you get from every trainer will be different.
Your order for
The only thing two dog trainers can agree on is that the third one is wrong. So I with my service dog puppies, the first couple of things that I work on are potty training, confidence building, socialization, and settling. Can you be chill? Can we set up a space in the house where you can just chill? I don't actually care about any of the obedience stuff. I will capture it. So as the puppy does something, so like if we're walking outside on a leash and if they walk next to me and look at me, I'll reward them. But I won't ask them to do it. I'm just going to reward them for it. So it becomes more of their default behavior because they chose to do it on their own, and they will, especially if you're holding food in your hands. They'll be like, oh, like, what's that? Perfect. Look at that. You're so good. So set yourself up for success too.
Yes.
But I want them to actually be a little bit feral for those first month or two, at least, because they need to be exploring the world. So if I'm worried and focused on sit down and stay, they're not actually exploring the world. And then they find out later in their life that the world is there, but then they've missed that prime socialization age. So I would actually prefer the first month or two that they're with me up until about 16 weeks at least. I like to go a little bit longer, but up until about 16 weeks, I don't really want to introduce very much obedience at all. And if I am introducing it, I'm doing it in the home and I'm doing it for fun. Or I'm doing it when we're out and we've been out and exploring for a while and they're bored with the area. So they've explored the whole thing and now we're bored. Then we can do a little bit of something more entertaining, more obedient.
For just a second, because you're talking about really setting up for success, because when you train
Yep.
seems to be a very important thing, like when in the day you're training. So when do you want to train? When would you specifically, because I know there's a lot of I'm on TikTok, I know all the like there's a million opinions on this. When do you like to train dogs? Both of our frustration seems a lot worse if he hasn't had playtime first, if he hasn't had the ball thrown for
Yeah.
him and he hasn't run. So once
Yeah.
I get the zoomies at least under control, he'll actually start to listen more on like the sit and hang out.
So I don't set up specific training sessions with my puppies, not in the sense of we're going to spend 10 minutes working on an obedience behavior. I seek out opportunities. I prefer to capture pretty much everything because I want the behaviors that I like to be the dog's default. And if I am able to reward the dog for doing something that they chose to do on their own, then they're going to start doing it more, and I'm going to start to see more of it over time, but I've never actually taught them. So most of my puppies know how to sit, and they know how to lie down, and they know how to do all of these things in the context where it's important, but they don't actually know it by name. So like I can't tell them because I've not actually taught them to sit. I've just reinforced it when it's occurred naturally. So and that's a very dog trainer concept. That's a harder one to convey to people that are new to training dogs because you do have to be on 24/7. So I have a treat pouch with me all the time. My treat pouch is right over there because I don't have a puppy in the room with me right now, but it's within like arm's reach always, so that when we're doing life, I can be rewarding the things that I want, and I'll set them up to do the right thing. So like if we go out to like a restaurant, say we go out to a pet friendly restaurant, we're outside, and I wouldn't do this for too long with a young puppy because that's just going to be a disaster. Like we go spend 10 minutes there, like grab a coffee or something. I'll bring the puppy, I'll bring like a little mat for them to sit on, I'll bring like a snuffle mat for them to put food in, and I will just sit down, I'll hold onto the leash, and I'll just put food in their snuffle mat, and they are free to do whatever the hell they want with on within the limits of the leash and within the limits of reason. Like I'm not going to let them jump on somebody if they walk by, but like, oh no, the leash is magically shorter now that somebody's walking by, so you can't reach them. Oh no. But they have the length of the leash to explore the area, and food just keeps falling into that snuffle mat. So relatively quickly, they're going to be very interested in that snuffle mat. They're going to lie down and they're going to start watching the world go by while they're eating food from their snuffle mat. So I'm teaching them a settle. I'm teaching them that if we're in this context, you should be laying down and you can watch the world go by. That's great. I encourage that. I don't reward a lot of eye contact because I want them looking at the world so they can take it in during that critical socialization piece. Is if they're staring at me looking for the next piece of food, they're not seeing what's going on in public, like around them. And then yeah, but then we do stuff like that. So like I will look for like we'll go to the park, and I'll have a long line and the puppy will be able to go and do whatever they want. But if they do something that I like every once in a while they'll come back and check in because they're like, "Are you coming with me?" I'm like, "Yes, here, have a cookie. Good job. This is great." And pretty quickly, most dogs will start to just walk next to you. They'll start to be by your side. And then you don't have to fight with them about the environment either. You don't have to get into those arguments or that frustration about, I need you to do this right now when you want to do that. I let you do that. And then you choose to come to me and you get paid for it and it's great. And then you can go back to doing it. And it's like, there's no conflict. I want to minimize the conflict as much as possible. And then just gradually, as they get older, these puzzle pieces all start to fall into place. And then once they're a little bit older, I start to add cues to it. I start to ask them for a little more in these places. But most of it they're doing by default because that's just been how it's always been. But you have to be on top of things. You have to be prepared to be paying attention. And if you're not prepared to be paying attention, you have to have somewhere for the puppy to go where they can't go practice bad behaviors. So the other thing I really focus on is setting up that like puppy playground. So they have an X pen, they might have a crate in the X pen so that they can get used to getting in and out of their crate without having to always be like shut into the crate. So they have a little more choice. It's Disneyland, there's toys everywhere. They have as many toys as they want in there. And if they're still really young, they have a potty spot in there too. But they learn to be self-sustaining with having all those options. So they can be a little chaotic. They can have, if they need to be busy because they're puppies, they often need to be busy. Sometimes I can't be busy with them either because I'm not feeling well or because I'm working or I'm doing something else. They can be busy next to me. They can be busy over there, and that's their busy spot. And then they also start to learn how to settle in those areas over time because they'll play and then they'll take a nap. And they'll play and they'll take a nap. And then as they get older, I'll start giving them more freedom in the house. Initially, it's very supervised and it's very focused. So maybe like 10 minutes at a time because my focus only lasts so long. And then they go back into their puppy wonderland and we take a break. But they're still learning all of these skills. So when they come out into the house, they're essentially practicing the same things, and then I can make that pen bigger. So instead of just being a little pen, I can block off like a kitchen. I use my kitchen a lot for this. And then they have the whole kitchen, or like they have half the kitchen, and then they have the whole kitchen, and then I can add another room and another room until they're able to exist on their own and entertain themselves on their own throughout the whole house if I'm not occupied with something else, or if I'm not there to entertain them.
As I'm being completely attacked by a land shark. Yeah, that has been like one of the best things that I learned was crate training. Please don't do that. Crate training was like the best thing we did was that, and sitting in front. We do a lot of this where I sit in front of the crate. I usually don't record while I'm sitting in front of the crate with the little land shark who is fully teething. But that's been really helpful because he doesn't mind it as much. And then I do a lot of this where I stick a carrot in the crate so that he has something to gnaw on, but it doesn't come out, so he gets to really fight with it. And that's been super good. And whoever told me to download the Calm app, I am not sponsored, but I would do almost anything for Calm at this point. And that app has a soundscape that's called Ocean, and it is the only way I can get him to sleep. If I don't have that going, he will not sleep. If I put it on, suddenly life is like at least 20% less stressful for him. And I don't know why, but if you are having trouble, I can just tell you that's the thing.
Have you
Need to get that. That's one thing. I need to get a snuffle mat and a licky mat. We have his rhinoceros, which is the funniest toy because he's destroyed everything. Like, I don't know what's up with labs and their little shark teeth. They are I love him so much. Oh my goodness.
They can be little sharks, that's for sure.
This is brutal. But the only thing that survived is Kong. And then I think Kong made this rhinoceros, which has like all these textures on it, and I'll rub peanut butter on it. And then I put peanut butter on the carrots, and then he loves that. And that's been a big thing. And the slow feeder. Otherwise, Labradors, they're Hoovers. It wasn't even, it was like watching my son was a teenager. That's what it was like watching him eat before the slow feeder. And if they could have a slow feeder for teenage boys, that'd be awesome. But that was like the only way to actually have his food last more than, I'm not kidding, 30 seconds. It was just inhale. Go, woo, dude.
Yes, labs are very good at eating.
Yes,
whether it's food or not is not relevant. They're just good at consuming.
I've never seen anything to experience this life with its mouth open. Just like, it's all about what can fit in it. It doesn't even matter if it's edible or not. It's just nonstop. The other thing I just wanted to bring out there for anyone who's disabled and you're trying to exercise a dog, and for whatever reason it's raining outside, your wheelchair is a thing. We're really worried about dog parks right now, and we've just been sitting in our living room.
I recommend dog park.
Yeah, I mean,
it's too much of a risk, especially with a service dog.
Exactly. I watched my friend, like one of my friends had a golden and got attacked at the dog park, and the poor dog was never the same. Like, could not go out in public. Like, and you spend all this time and energy training your dog, and so
I usually recommend dog parks only if they're empty. For exercise, if they're empty, but
that's our issue. We have a small yard. Our yard is not big, and he has full Labrador energy, and I want a place for him to be able to take off and run. So we're going to be timing. I'm going to check out the dog park and when it's super empty, and then we'll probably be doing that but for right now, he doesn't have all his shots.
Have you heard of Sniff Spot? Have you heard of
that? It's like Airbnb, but for dog yards. Yep. Yeah. I'll put a link to that. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah.
Those are really helpful. Yes. But those can be really helpful if you need a space to go and you need it at like a certain time, and that's a time when your dog park's going to be busy. Like, so helpful.
Yeah, it's a brilliant service. I wish it was more really would love more services. And like one of the things I would love to see is for a volunteer army to decide that they're going to help out elderly and disabled people on dog walks, because in my area it's $30 for every dog
Yep.
walk. And there is no way I could ever afford that. It just feels like I'm not going off on the price. People need to
Yeah.
charge what they need to charge. It feels like, but it's just whether people can afford it, and who can afford anything right now. So it would be so amazing if there was some sort of service for disabled and elderly people who are on Social Security to be able to keep their pets and keep the pets healthy. That
Hmm.
would be wonderful. I would also love to see more focus on Pet Finder or other adoption services where they know
Yeah.
what they're looking for service dogs, so that we could help people with getting without all the calls, because if we're disabled, we're
Yeah.
tired, and like trying to do
Yeah.
all this, like I was so overwhelmed and exhausted and stressed trying to, not nearly as overwhelmed and exhausted and stressed as I am right now, mind you, but hi, I love you. Yes, yes, you are worth it. But my God, dude, my hair, come on, no haircuts. You, you are not Vidal Sassoon. No, you are not. It would just be nice to have more services that are available for people, because the goal is for dogs to have good, happy, healthy families, and
Yeah.
for people to get the kind of dog that works best for them. And that's not always the questions. And it's almost like online dating. Like the questions that they ask you for like Hinge and online, not that I've been on it in a long time, but
Yeah.
I was like, none of these are what you need to know for a person. None of this should matter.
Right.
And like, I feel like a lot of like what I was
Well,
like being asked on Pet Finder was like, this is not the thing.
yeah.
Oh,
And even then, when you're looking at rescues and shelters, take everything you read with a grain of salt. Like,
yeah.
as a dog professional, I can read those bios and I can tell you what behavior problems they're trying to hide, because they try to make it sound like it's not a problem
Like it's a plus.
when it is. So, like,
There
right. Right.
to discuss.
So, like, if you see you disappeared. Oh, there you are. Okay. Something happened.
Yeah, by a very cute little land shark. The
Yeah.
interview I've ever done. This is his. So he's actually being really good right now. He's was not supposed to be like that right at the moment, but he was trying to let me know he needed to go outside. So he decided that his way of
Yeah.
telling me he needs to go outside is to close my iPad and be like, "Hey, I know you're doing a thing right now, but
Hey,
not nearly as important as what I need to be doing right now."
that's
So
good
yeah, this is
though. That's
the most chaotic interview I've ever done. Well, this is just how life goes. Unfortunately, the two people who are supposed to be helping me with the dog are not around right now. So it's just him and I trying to do this interview, which is kind of hilarious, to be honest. I'm here for the chaos. Why
okay.
not? Disability is chaos. And that is
I purposefully put so I have just one of my two puppies with me right now. The Taco went to go get neutered, so he's staying with one of the
oh,
other puppy raisers while he heals, because my house is too chaotic for that. So now I have Nacho, and I purposefully put Nacho away before getting on Zoom, because this morning on one of my other Zoom calls, he was absolute chaos. Him and Donnie were just wrestling right behind me and like running around. I was like, we can't be doing that while I'm on a podcast. You wouldn't be able to hear anything.
I
So
yes.
puppies are chaos. So a year old. So he's like technically not really a puppy anymore. Although kind of still.
I would also caution people who are disabled whose family members are not, when they say, I will help you and I will be doing this, be realistic about it. Because
Yep.
now my family's lovely and wonderful, and my daughter, who's like helpful, is super helpful. It's not enough, and it's also not that when you're training a service dog, there's specific things that need to happen at certain times. And when someone's thinking they're doing you a favor, they're not always doing it in the way you ask them to and in the way you need it done. So I found that even though I have the help and people are like, oh, let me do this, it's like, okay, but are you gonna do it the way I asked? Which I'm sure there's like a
Yep.
thousand moms who just fist bumped the sky and were like, yes, in everything. Grocery shopping, dishes,
Yep.
all of it. My God. Yes. And also with puppies, it's
Yep.
even more with the puppy, because you're like really trying to establish routines, you're trying to establish the bond and everything else. And if someone's not doing it the right way, it could get really bad.
So actually, speaking of routines, one thing I recommend to people raising service dogs is to have a routine that is less routiny.
Mm,
So like instead of having a set, this is when breakfast is, this is when we go out for a potty break, this is when we do X, Y, or Z, and having it be identical every single day, which is very common advice, I recommend having it be a little more chaotic because you're not going to be able to sustain it. You're disabled. You can't. The routine is that you don't have a routine, because even if you have a routine, your disability is going to just stick its head in there and say, nope, not today. You're not having your routine today.
Not today, Satan.
So I like, exactly. So I like to practice that with puppies from early on. So the only routine that I keep very strict is the potty training. And that's because I don't like dealing with messes in the house.
The potty training, what it's like, he's gotten like, I don't know how he lucked out with this little dude, but like almost he's had
Yeah,
like 3 accidents since we've gotten him, and those were in the first two
good.
days.
Yes.
He actually goes to the door, and he wasn't taught that. When we
Good.
got him, like the breeder we got him from was like, we're so sorry, but yeah, he's not, that's not his thing. We don't know, we just did litter box training. You're gonna have to train to go outside.
Yes.
And then within like 3 days he was just going to the door like, hey, or he has a very high pitched
Good.
whine when he needs
Perfect.
to go. But what do
Yeah.
you do? Like, how do you? It's like, if you're constantly observing, you'll learn really quickly when they're like, "Hey, like there's a walk, there's a whine, there's something." What's your routine for
Yep.
getting them to go
And
outside?
they can actually pick up on it pretty quickly. You just can't trust them. So
Yes, that one.
yeah, yeah. So my recommendation when you get a new puppy into the house, and honestly, this is with any dog of any age, because you have no idea what their background is, and a new
Mm.
house is a new space. So potty training doesn't always generalize and transfer to a new location. But anyway, I always recommend, especially with teeny tiny puppies, you set an alarm for yourself and you take them out every hour on the hour for at least 2 or 3 days and take notes. So, like, you go outside and take notes. Do they potty? No. Go inside. An hour later, do they potty? Yes or no? Write it down. Do they pee? Do they poop? And then you get this data after a couple of days. You can see the pattern of what time of day do they tend to poop more often? What time of day do they tend to need potty breaks? How frequently are they needing potty breaks? If they need to potty more than every hour, like Taco did, I started setting my alarm for every 15 minutes when he was out and loose, because the first week I had him, he was spot on every 15 minutes. I gotta pee.
Me too, my friend.
But once you set that, once you have that data, then you can be more flexible with your potty schedule. So like once I found out that like 7 a.m. was the last time that I could, like, that was the latest I could take him out without him having an accident in the crate at night. So I was like, okay, so I'll set my alarm for 6:50 and we'll go outside. You'll have a potty break, then you come back inside and I can sleep and you'll be fine in your crate until like 8. So I can have another hour of sleep. If we're out like during the day and I've taken you out every hour on the hour, but you don't tend to need to pop between like 12 and 3, then I just don't have to do that anymore, and I'm still paying attention just in case, because if they're moving and they're running, they're going to need to potty more frequently, especially the younger they are. But you can get a good feel for what times of day they need to go out, and then you can organize your own schedule around that. And if you can be outside around the time of day that they typically want to potty anyway, they're going to potty train really quickly because you're not going to have any accidents in the house. And then on top of that, finding out their routine, just general rule of thumb is if they've eaten something or if they've drank something or if they've been playing. So like actively moving around, especially high energy, take them outside. When they're done, we're going outside for like 20 minutes because they're going to have to go. Even if they just went like 10 minutes before, they come inside, they start playing, we're going back outside. Even if normally you can hold it for an hour, nope, we're going back outside because you're going to have to pee. You're just going to have to.
Yes. Also, was a good shortcut to, I'm tired, it's cold, please go, has been just throwing the ball for him when we're outside. And then it's like all of a sudden, oh, yeah,
Yes,
that's the thing I need
get
to
them
do.
moving.
It's been so helpful. And then inside, the
The
thing
other
that's
potty
been,
hack. Yeah,
I was just having him,
their
he's
potty
not,
training hack. Oh, sorry,
sorry, so we're on a
go
delay,
for it.
everyone. This is just chaos. If you want to listen, just have a good laugh and no, just get it done anyways. Perfect is the enemy of finished. When we're inside,
Yes.
I started using a because he can't. I won't let him free range. There's too much he can get in trouble with, and it's just drama. So I keep him on a
Yep.
handless lead, and that's been so good. That's how he
Mhm.
learned how to settle. Was like, mom's not moving, I can't move. So I better just sit here with her while she makes her
Yep.
coffee. And then it's just gotten easier and easier each day. And then like the days where someone else had him and was like, he's fine. Look how he shadows mom and sits next to him. It's chaos and
Uh-huh.
everything's chewed. And then he
Yep.
gets his manners. Like he has really good manners. He doesn't jump on people. But yesterday I was in bed all day and he was being taken care of by other people. And now today he's like, I jump on people. That's what I do now. And it's like, so if you're like trying to keep things sane, it's really great to have the handless leash, especially with the pockets that have the treats in them. So much easier.
Yep. That or strategically placed baby gates.
I love that. We need those.
Yeah. Or an X pen that you can move around so that you can have a little more freedom and you can block off certain things. But anything that keeps them from accessing stuff they shouldn't have is what you need to do with a puppy.
I'm sitting outside and we have a patio that I have my plants on. Again, I was not I when I'm out here with him, my like I still have my eyes on him. I know exactly what he's doing. If he has anything in his mouth I don't like, it's just instant like switch over with a toy. I am looking at the ground right now and I see my strawberry plants all over this ground because that was not what was done yesterday. So I have lots of dead strawberry plants. The dog is fine. And oh yeah, that's the other thing. Don't have anything toxic outside in your play area. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
I cannot believe how fast
They will find it.
it's like the Doctor Who episode where they're talking about the weeping angels and they're like, it's faster than you can ever imagine. Don't blink. And it's
Yep.
like, yes, puppies,
Yep.
don't blink. Don't have oleander, don't have lilies,
So,
don't have bulbs.
oh no.
Yeah.
So two tips. Going back to the potty training. The best potty training tip, aside from like keeping a strict schedule, is teach them a cue. So as they're peeing, or like when you go outside to go potty, I just tell them go potty. Or Taco's program likes get busy, but pick something.
Yes, I like that one.
Say it. Yep. Say it when you go outside, and I like to have them on a leash at first. So I stand outside, we're on a leash, I pick a spot, I stand still, I plant myself like a tree, I say, get busy, and then I wait. And then once they start going to the bathroom, I wait until they're done or almost done because you can actually distract them from peeing and then they don't actually finish peeing and then they pee again later. But wait until they're almost done. Say, good job, get busy, good job, you did it. And you can put it on cue. So then you can go outside relatively quickly. You can say get busy and they will potty on cue when you need them to. It's brilliant. It's so helpful.
Realizing how important that is where you live, where it's snowing, and like I'm in California, it's 50 degrees and this is cold. Like I where you're living, I'm like I would need that dog
important for
on
a surface
cue.
dog.
Yeah.
Well, you
That's
want it
true.
as a surface dog because if you're out and about and you're doing stuff and you need to go inside somewhere, like you need to go into the hospital and you're going to be in there like for an appointment or something, but they're always running late. You don't know how long it's going to take. If they don't feel like they have to potty, they might feel like they have to potty like 20 minutes in. So you want to make sure they pee before you go inside. And if you don't have it on cue, it's not really a guarantee that they're going to do what they need to do. And then it might become a problem for you later. But if you have it on cue, you can tell them, get busy. And then they'll at least try. And then too if they had to pee or not. But they'll at least make an attempt. And then you can go inside and know that you're not going to have an issue when you're inside. So I highly recommend.
That's a brilliant. I hadn't even thought of that. What are some other things that you need to be teaching, or is that something we should cover next time? Maybe that's something we should be because we've gone through like the first part of it. Maybe that's our next episode as we talk about like what are the commands.
I can give you a couple for like those early puppy stages because I actually don't do a lot of commands at all for those early puppy stages. Because like I said, I like to capture stuff, so I don't like to tell them what to do. I just encourage it when they're doing the right thing. But the things that I need them to do from like day one that are critical: go potty on cue, drop it on cue, and recall, come when called. Otherwise, I don't care. The rest of it can come later. The rest of it can come when it needs to. But if I've got a teeny tiny puppy that's going to be a little chaos gremlin, I need you to know when to potty and do it on cue. I need you to be able to let go of something in your mouth, and I need you to come back to me if I ask. That's it. You can teach those
do you think
immediately.
That is? Like, when do you think you should start going beyond that after? Like, when do you graduate from that? Is it like pointless to teach a dog who's before 6 months or?
Oh, no. So you can teach them and you can practice all of these things from day one. And it's good to practice them all from day one. It's just when you're doing it.
Mm,
And I won't ask them to do it on purpose until much later. Because that's,
okay.
again, the focus is on, can we be confident? Can we explore the world? Can we see what's going on? I don't need you to sit because I don't want to sit. I need you to actually look
Mm,
at stuff going on around you first.
okay.
So at what age will kind of depend on the puppy, the individual. So like Taco is a very confident dude. Never had like confidence is his thing. He's just like, I'm gonna do all of the stuff always. Nacho's been a much more sensitive guy. He's been a little more nervous, a little more cautious. So Nacho is just turned 1, and we're now working on sit and stay. And stay is really hard, but he needed that confidence boost. He needed to be
Mm,
allowed to be a little more feral so that he could get over that sensitivity. Because if I had tried to teach him to sit and stay, he might have done it. Capacity wise, he was probably capable of doing it, but he was so worried about stuff, it
mm.
would have made him more worried. And it might have prevented him from being able to be a service dog. Whereas, like Taco, he was so confident, I could add that in much sooner because he didn't care. He's like, whatever.
Wow.
So by the
Yeah.
time he hit a year, he like their progression looks so different. It's two totally different progressions. Like Taco was able to go out into more non-pet friendly spaces and be more reliable from like 6, 7 months old. Nacho's just starting to get to that place at a year. So every dog's gonna be a little bit different when it comes to that. But the priority for a service dog really shouldn't be the obedience necessarily.
Mm.
It should be their confidence and their comfort level in places. Because you can add obedience later. Adding in obedience, easy. That's easy.
Oh,
Getting the
that's what we're gonna try that
confidence
one next
and the
time. Yes.
comfort. Yeah, the confidence and the comfort in new environments, that's what's harder to teach, and that really should be the main focus as they're growing.
So I feel like what you're saying is also applicable to the person who's training the dog. Like, I'm not a professional dog trainer and I'm constantly feeling like I'm failing. But if that's the way I'm training him, I feel like I would gain more confidence training him than if I'm constantly feeling like he's not staying. Obviously, this is a failure.
No, he's a baby.
Yeah.
Also age appropriate too. So like a 8-week-old puppy, you got a 2-second stay. Brilliant. That's amazing. Don't ask for more. Like a 4-month-old puppy, you could probably get like a good 10-20 second stay, but they're going to be so distracted by the world. Sometimes it'll be 2 seconds, sometimes it'll be 10 seconds. You might even get lucky and get 30 seconds, but you got to be willing to go with the flow because
Mm.
they're going to sit and stay and then forget what they're doing because they're a baby. So they might, if they're remembering, they might do really well. But if you're in a new spot, they might go, oh, what's that over there? And just get so distracted. And it's not because they don't know, it's because that's developmentally appropriate for their age. And then you don't even talk to about teenagers. Oh my God. They go around 6 months old. Around 6 months old, everything starts to come together. They're doing really well. Things are looking really nice. Then like 8, 9 months old, they hit that teenager stage and they're like, I'm sorry, have you taught me something before ever in my whole life? Because I don't remember any of that. And people get so frustrated. People get so frustrated. And I catch myself getting frustrated too, because it's like, you know this, you did this last week. Why can't you do it this week? And you have to just stop and be like, no, it's because they're a teenager. Their brain is literally rewiring in their head. Just because they knew it last week doesn't necessarily mean they actually know it this week, because their brain is changing and growing. And hormones are coming in, and hormones are a whole fucking mess. They'll mess everything up. And so it got to be like, embrace the patience and like, okay, today we're doing well. This minute we're doing well. 10 minutes from now we might not be doing well. And it's but you got to let them figure it out. So like I always tell the teenage puppy people, just help them as much as they need, but don't
Mm.
overhelp them. So if you ask them to do a sit, normally they can do a sit and they can't do it, instead of telling them no, bad, or like punishing them or getting upset with them, just lure them again. Use like a piece of food and help them because they probably forgot or something, or hormones, or who knows. But if they're doing well, like just if you say sit and normally they can sit, don't take out the food preemptively, because if they can do
Mm.
it without the help, they should get the practice. But if they can't, like if you ask them to do a sit, they can't do it, then help them instead of getting upset. And or you can get upset but keep it to yourself, because it is upsetting. It can be really frustrating.
Even just like for a regular person, that's super upsetting. But like when you're a dog trainer, you're like, I can't imagine how
Mhm.
exhausting that would be.
Oh my god. Nacho is giving me a run for my money. He is the best. He is so fun, but like I take him out places and I'm like, am I sure I'm a dog trainer? Because
Yeah.
dog is a menace. What happened? Smack dab in the middle of adolescence. Like
Oh my
he
God.
is fully in the middle of it right now. So it's a disaster.
My dad was a marriage and family child counselor, and I was a nightmare teenager. And I very much feel like my dad would vibe this conversation with, like, am I even a therapist because this child is out of control? Like, yeah. We should
Yeah.
probably hit this at an end right now before I like lose a limb to a land shark. I'll be very, honestly, I'm fine with it. I've been asking for an
Yep.
amputation for years. Maybe he'll just take care of this for me. I don't know. It's definitely been on offer. But we will meet again, hopefully, and we'll talk obedience next time and get into that. But I
Perfect.
thank you for your time and your patience. Welcome to the tornado and chaos of a new puppy. I thought my life was
Oh my
chaotic.
god. It's always chaos with a new puppy. It can be so much fun, but it is very much overwhelming. Even as a professional, it's overwhelming. It's just there's just so much. There's so much to
So
do.
much.
And they're always busy. They're always doing something. So
Always. So if you want to, I don't know how much I'll edit this. It just entirely depends on if we have a volunteer who's willing to do it. This might just
mhm.
go out raw, in which case I hope you enjoyed all the puppy shrieking and chaos. If you watch this on YouTube, it will be unedited, so you can enjoy all the chaos and get to see my gremlin and my new land shark. It'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully you will come back in a month or so and talk to us about some other aspects of service dog training. Thank you so much. Everyone be
I had
kind,
a
be
great
gentle.
time. This was fun.
I have this as an excuse just to chat with you. So this is fun for me. All right, everyone, be kind, be gentle, and whatever it looks like to you, be fierce. That is so important right now. There has never been a more important time to be gentle with yourself, kind to yourself, and still standing up for yourself, because this is a fascinating timeline. Yeah, right there with y'all. I almost got the dog just for mental health because I was not getting out of bed. So he makes sure I get out of bed. That's part of it. Go to our website, invisiblenotbroken.com. You can see everything. We have new podcasts starting very soon, so that'll be exciting. It'll just be my voice. Alrighty, I think we can hit the nope. Me and technology are